The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. We'll get started in just about 1 minute. Okay, so it's about 6 o'clock. Some people are still logging in, but let me just see if everybody can hear me. So on your GoToWebinar control panel, there's a little hand symbol. If you can hear me, please click on that hand symbol. Alrighty. Again, if you can hear me, please click on the hand symbol for the GoToWebinar in the GoToWebinar control panel. Okay, looks like most everyone can hear me. Okay, next thing, click on the hand symbol again to take it down. Great, thank you. Okay, so everybody, welcome to the last of this year's DAISY New Leader Training, this membership year. Then we will move into the new schedule for 2020, membership year 2020. My name is Katie Ravitch. I'm the Adult Learning Specialist here at Badgerland. I've been here for about 5 years, over 5 years, so I've done a lot of these trainings. And thank you for coming. Just a few things about GoToWebinar. I'll be sharing my screen with you. There's a PowerPoint that I'm going to go through. So there are also handouts that are associated with this presentation. And those handouts are available on GoToWebinar in the handouts section. And there will be a copy of the PowerPoint presentation with notes. So that's available there. I have been told that the handouts are sometimes hard to download or hard to find. So if you cannot find the handouts for whatever reason, that's fine. I will send everybody the handouts via email after the presentation is over. So don't worry about them if you can't find them, and you don't need them for the presentation. If the audio is by telephone, if you're not able to hear us, please let us know via the chat or questions bar. I think for you it just says questions. I think I'm the only one who can use chat. So that's anytime you want to communicate with me, or if I ask you to communicate back to me, you can type something into the questions section and that will show up on mine and I can answer. So we'll test that in just a minute. You can also raise your hand. We already did that, so we know that that works. Webinar etiquette, please don't put us on hold. And I can also unmute you. If you would ever like to speak to the whole group, you can raise your hand. I can unmute you and you can speak to the whole group. But if you're muted on your end, then we won't be able to hear you. So that's just something to know. And then I did discuss the handouts. There are 5 handouts associated with this presentation. They're available on your GoToWebinar control panel. If you can't access them or find them there for whatever reason, don't worry. I'll send them to you via email after the presentation, and you don't need them for the presentation. Okay, so this training is meant to help you feel comfortable, confident, and prepared to lead your DAISY meetings. That's where we're going with this training. So let's test that questions function. So what I'd like you to do is type into the questions bar your name and what community you're from. So let's test it, make sure that that's working. So everybody take a moment to type into the question bar your name and what community you're from. We know we're all going to be DAISY leaders, but one of the nice things about webinars is we have a really large council with Madison, La Crosse, Platteville, and Janesville. So with a webinar, we can reach everybody. So go ahead and type into the questions section your name and what community you're from so we can see who's here. Okay, I'm not getting anything. I wonder. Okay, oh, Brittany's here. Brittany is from Waunakee. Laura is from Verona. Good. So everybody if you just joined us, just take a moment to type into the question section your name and what community you're from. Catherine is from Monona. Just want to make sure everybody is able to use this. Okay, we'll move on in just a minute, but if you are wondering what we're doing, just take a moment to type into the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel your name and what community you're from, just so I know that we can communicate via that questions. Okay, still waiting for Catherine. Catherine C. Oh, you're both Catherine C. Catherine Cole-Klager. Jamie, I haven't heard from. And I think that's it. Wait, 1, 2, 3. And Brianna. Brianna, Catherine, and Jamie. if you might be having technical troubles, etc. So as soon as you're able to, please type into the question section your name and what community you're from. Okay, and with that, we're going to keep moving. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about some Girl Scout basics. So the mission of Girl Scouts is to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. We also talk about the 3 keys to leadership: discover, connect, and take action. So on the discovery front, Girl Scouts is a little different than say something like gymnastics or swimming, where the girls are only doing one activity. In Girl Scouts, we want girls to sample a large range of activities, and that large range of activities, hopefully they'll discover something that they're really interested in and passionate about. On the connection front, girls have opportunities to connect in Girl Scouts at that troop level, at their local community level, all the way up to the international level. You are leading our youngest girls, so that's not happening yet, but there are opportunities to connect internationally in Girl Scouts. And then take action. So Girl Scouts has what we call take action projects built into the curriculum. And those are developmentally appropriate projects for girls can make their communities a better place. And I'll talk more about take action projects as we go along, but just know that we have those in Girl Scouts. And I'm just going to check my questions because it looks like someone else was able to. Okay, Jamie's from Verona. Thanks, Jamie. Okay, so you're just able to communicate there. Okay, we also talk about the 3 processes. So activities are girl-led, girls learn by doing, and girls work together cooperatively. So those are the 3 processes. The girl-led piece is very important. And I'm going to, as I go through the presentation, I will point out opportunities for you to make your meetings more girl-led. You are leading, again, our youngest girls. So sometimes girl-led can look really different at the Daisy level because you're just getting started and they're very young. So it might be something like offering the girls a choice between 2 options rather than the girls taking complete control of the activity. But in your head, you're kind of going for this progression where eventually the girls will take over most of the functions of the meeting. Probably not as daisies, but as they get older. Okay. Okay, so one thing I just want to make sure you know what I'm talking about is Volunteer Toolkit. I'm going to keep mentioning it so you know what I mean. So Volunteer Toolkit is a digital assistant that's available to you as a troop co-leader. It has all of the DAISY curriculum available electronically for downloading, and then also it has meeting plans and year planning materials as well. And we're going to go into more detail about Volunteer Toolkit, but just so you know what it is when I mention it, it's that digital assistant where you can find DAISY curriculum and year planning tools. Okay, so with that, we are going to, you might be thinking, oh, I'm going to have, 10 or 12 5 to 7-year-olds looking at me. What do I do? So we have a suggested meeting structure that I'm going to go through, and I just wanted to point out one publication here. This is called The Leader's Guide to Success. So we are updating this right now, but I don't think it's not gonna look that different. It'll have the same materials in it, but this is just a great resource to have as a troop co-leader. It has some basic information you need to have on hand, like how many volunteers you need, etc. It also has a rundown of this suggested meeting structure in it. So if you don't have a physical copy of this Leader's Guide to Success, you can look at it online as well. So at gsbadgerland.org, under volunteer resources, you can look at this. So the structure we recommend is the arrival activity, opening, business, activities, snack, cleanup, and closing. And we're going to go through those one at a time just to show you what they are. But before we do that, I just want to talk about caper charts. So what is a caper chart? It's a Girl Scout tradition, but it's simply a job chart. And if your girls are already in school, so they probably are familiar with this kind of job chart. In Girl Scouts, we call it a caper chart, and the individual jobs are called capers. I'm not entirely sure why, but it's a Girl Scout tradition. The caper chart picture I have here is a really sort of very nice, artistic, complicated caper chart, and you do not have to have a complicated caper chart. If you are interested in making, or you have a volunteer who's interested in making an artistic caper chart, let me recommend Pinterest. We have a Pinterest page for GS Badger, or we have a Pinterest page for Badgerland. You can get there on our website by clicking on the Pinterest icon. There are many ideas there for caper charts if you're so inclined. But you can go very simple with caper charts as well. It doesn't have to be complicated. So what job should you put on there? The ones that I recommend that you start with are opening leader or leaders. You can have more than one girl on that job. Snack helpers, cleaners, and a closing leader or leaders. Again, you can have more than one girl on that job. Other than that, and I'll go through what all those are eventually, the caper chart is a work in progress. You want to go through a few meetings and see what you might need to add or take away from your caper chart. For instance, maybe you meet somewhere where you need to clean the tables when you're done with your meeting. So that's something that you can add to your caper chart. So something like that. Okay. Okay, so now we're into the different meeting structure of the meeting. So the first thing we recommend is what we call an arrival activity, and that's just something small and individual for girls to do during this kind of unstructured time at the beginning of the meeting. So girls are going to be flowing in at different times. Parents are going to want to talk to you. You're trying to get all your materials organized, et cetera. So it's kind of can be a chaotic time. So it works better if you have something for girls to focus on during that time. So something very small and individual, like a coloring sheet, and I just pulled these off the web. Decorating a small craft or a name tag is something you could do for the arrival activity. It also serves an important social function. So girls who are less comfortable in groups will feel more comfortable if there's something for them to focus on individually. And girls who are very comfortable and have a tendency to pair off or form cliques will be less likely to do that if you have an arrival activity during that unstructured time. And again, if you have questions at any time, you can always type those into the questions bar or raise your hand. If you raise your hand, then I can unmute you and you can speak to the whole group, so you can decide whether you want to do that or not. And the other way is to just type something into the question bar. Okay, on to the opening section of the meeting. So once everybody's there and you're ready to start the meeting, you're going to start by reciting the promise and the law. So these two, and it's a good idea to have a visual of the promise and the law, especially the law, which is pretty long there. So the promise, and I pulled these visuals off the internet. You could also make them as a first project with a troop. There's lots of ways to get your promise and law visuals. So we'll go through the promise. So we hold the Girl Scout sign for our promise, and that's our right hand, 3 middle fingers together, thumb over pinky. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. So just a word on the word God. It's been in the promise since the very beginning of Girl Scouts, but GSUSA makes no attempt to define the word God and encourages individuals to substitute whatever is appropriate for them or to remain silent during that time. I see I have a question here. Brittany asks, am I showing something other than the welcome screen? I am. Is everybody, if you are able to see the slide I'm on right now is opening, promise, and law. If you're able to see that, please raise your hand. If you're able to see the slide that I'm on right now, please raise your hand. It's the promise and the law slide. Oh dear. Okay, so Brittany says she's seeing only the webcam and the welcome to the leader training slide. So let me just make sure I am showing my screen here. Sharing, show screen, clean screen. Okay. Screen, clean screen. Okay. Oops, let's go back one. Okay. Okay, so Catherine tells me it just updated to the correct screen. I was following along using the handouts before. Okay, well, now I see the opening screen. Now I can see it, Kathy. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Thank you for telling me that, Brittany. That's never happened before. I wonder what happened there. Okay, so everybody, we should be on the slide that we're on right now is called the opening promise and law. So let's just try that one more time. If you can see the slide that says opening promise and law, please raise your hand in the GoToWebinar control panel. Okay. Okay, great. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, so it looks like we solved that problem. Okay, so back onto the promise and the law. So I just went through the promise, and then the other piece is the Girl Scout law. And it's pretty long, as you can see here, but it's very important for daisies to do the Girl Scout law every time, because all of the daisy curriculum is based on the words of the Girl Scout law. So it's something that daisies are really focused on. I have gotten tips from leaders. There is a good song, a good call and response type song to teach girls the law, which leaders have found on YouTube. So that's something to look for if you want like a tool to help teach the Girl Scout law. There's also some really fun craft projects you can do with the Girl Scout law, such as one color bead for every one of the lines, etc. But eventually you'll get it, but it takes, I mean, I don't have it memorized, right? So that's why it's important to have that visual, but your daisies might have it memorized when you're done with your daisy year, because it's really a big part of the daisy curriculum. Okay, so what else do you do during this opening section besides reciting the promise and the law? You can do a lot of things. It kind of depends on the group. So if you have a group that's a little shy and hesitant, sometimes doing something like an icebreaker can help the group get going. So it could be some fun question like, what's your favorite Halloween candy? And everybody gets to say something and people get started talking that way. Or you could do another Girl Scout tradition where you sing a song. So I have put up a sample song here. This is a song sung to the tune of I'm a Little Teapot. I found this one on the internet. There's about 5 of them for daisies. I will not subject you to my singing voice, but I will give you a tip to find Girl Scout songs. I really feel like the best, there's a lot of resources out there for Girl Scout songs. YouTube works the best for me because you can see the hand motions, because a lot of Girl Scout songs have hand motions. And then I don't read music, so I need to hear the tune to get the song. So I really recommend YouTube for Girl Scout songs. All you have to do is get on YouTube and search Girl Scout songs or a particular Girl Scout song if you're looking for one in particular, and you'll find ample resources for that. So during that opening section, reciting the promise and the law and doing something like singing a song or doing an icebreaker to bring the group together. The first few meetings, you're definitely, as the leader, is going to lead the girls through that, right? But you're going to transition that to girl-led activity, right? So as the girls get used to the routine, you can have 1 girl or 2 girls, that'd be the opening leader job on the caper chart, lead girls through the promise and the law. And then they can pick what you're going to do during the opening. Are you going to sing a song? What song are you going to sing? Are you going to do something else during the opening? Do they have a different idea? So that's a great girl-led opportunity in a daisy meeting. Okay, so I'm just going to check in one more time about our slideshow. So we are now on the business slide. So there's a green bar that says business with pictures of some daisies. If you can see that slide, please raise your hand. Okay, good. So it looks like we're okay now. Okay, so alert me if you feel like, someone alert me if you feel like the slides aren't matching up to what I'm saying. Okay, so the next part after the opening is the business section of the meeting. And during the business section of the meeting, you're going to discuss any rules that you need to go over and then make group decisions, right? So on the rules front, I always recommend to leaders to use the words of the promise and the law to help you. So if you observe some behaviors that you know that you need to correct, say maybe girls were leaving each other out or pairing off at a meeting, you could say something like, hey girls, at the last meeting I noticed we weren't being a sister to every Girl Scout, and we promised to do that. So how can we work on that? What can we do to make that better, right? So that's a good way to approach it, to remind all the girls of the promise that they've made, and also not to point out individuals, and get the girls to brainstorm some solutions for improving their behavior. The important part is that you don't let negative behaviors go. So if you see things that aren't good happening in the troop, you need to consciously bring those up, and the business section is a great place to do this, and reinforce what you want the girls to do. Other things that happen during the business section is group decisions. So as a Girl Scout troop, you're going to be making all kinds of group decisions from what piece of curriculum to work on next. Are you going to go on a camp out? What are you going to do with cookie money from your cookie sales, etc.? So this is just a designated time in the meeting to do that. I really recommend you experiment with decision making. with your girls, because this is a great skill for them to acquire. I mean, you've got young girls, daisies, but majority rules isn't always the best way to make a decision. There are other ways of making decisions. So explore those in your daisy troop in the business section. Okay, so our business, so big business for us today is to know what is available to you in the Daisy, what's available in Daisy curriculum to present to the girls. And hot off the presses, things just changed today, updated today for what new Daisy curriculum is available to you now. So this is the first time for some of this stuff that I'm going through, but we'll start here with what do daisies do? And we'll start with the Girl's Guide to Girl Scouting. So that's this picture right here. And I have a example here. So this is the Daisy Girl's Guide to Girl Scouting, and every level from Daisy to Ambassador has a Girl's Guide that's a different color for that level. So what's in this book? So in it, we have the first section is called Handbook, and that's going to have some basic information about being a daisy and introduce the girls to the flower friends, which will become essential to their daisy curriculum. And then it will always have a uniform diagram. So one thing to know is that they haven't updated these uniform diagrams in quite a while that are in the Girls Guide. So I provided you with the latest uniform diagram in the handout section. And again, if you are having any trouble downloading the handouts, I will send them all to you via email after the presentation is over as well. So don't worry about that, but I'll send you the latest Daisy uniform diagram. And then the other thing that it's always going to have in the handbook section is information on what we call bridging. So bridging is when you move from one Girl Scout level to the next. So daisies would move to brownies when they enter second grade. So this is the information on bridging and how you bridge as daisies. And one thing I want to, this is probably, what's in the Girls Guide is probably the best rundown of the quote unquote requirements for bridging. Bridging is pretty loose. It's not like earning a badge, right? So it has pretty loose requirements, and this is a this is a rundown of what those are and some good suggestions about what you could do for a bridging ceremony, etc. So that's always in the handbook section of every Girls Guide. And then you get to the meat of the Girls Guide, and then for daisies, that's the packets for earning your petals. So I'm going to stop and take one of these out to show you. Okay, so this is one of the petal packets. So there are 10 petal packets. Each of the petals is a different color. So this is the light blue petal. Goes with a line of the Girl Scout law. So this one is honest and fair, and has a flower friend associated with it. So this one is lupine, and they call her Lupe, right? So what's in these packets? So it's always going to start with a story that illustrates honest and fair. And one thing I just want to pass on to you guys, having daisies, the reading level situation, and that's probably true of almost every level that you have, but you might have girls that are fluent readers and girls who aren't readers at all at this age, right? So with the stories, you plan to read the stories to them, so you're not pointing out the differences in reading level. So you'll have a story, and then you're going to have 3 steps. And in the third step, you'll have a choice of activities to do for that third step. And when you've completed that, you've completed the petal. And they're very well designed for this age group. Leaders have told me that they fit very nicely within a 1-hour daisy meeting. So that is what you can use to earn your petals. So there's 10 packets to earn those 10 multicolored petals. And then in the Girls Guide. And then this centerpiece is called the Promise Center. It's kind of a darker blue. There's actually no petal for the Promise Center. That's kind of up to the discretion of the leader. So whenever you feel like girls have mastered the promise and understand the words of the promise, then you can award that Promise Center. The other packets that are in the Girls Guide to Girl Scouting for daisies are 4 financial literacy leaves. So there's these money counts ones, and those can be done at any time. And then there's these 2 cookie business leaves, which are designed to be done during the cookie sale. So they fit nicely with the cookie sale. And that's what's in the Girls Guide to Girl Scouting. The last section, there's 3 sections, is called My Girl Scouts, and it's stickers and little fun stuff for girls to do to personalize their Girls Guide. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I see I have a question. Okay, so Brittany asks, how and when do we get the packets and the petals? Okay, so with all of our, with our spread out council, we have 4 service centers. We have one in Madison, one in Janesville, one in Platteville, and one in La Crosse. Did I say that right? Yes. And each of these service centers has a store associated with it. So the best way to find out when those stores are open and what they offer is to go to gsbadgerland.org, and in the right-hand corner, there's a shop button. Click on that shop button, and that's going to get you all the information you need if you would like to go to the store and pick things up there. You can also shop online if you want to. That's it, shop anytime online and have things delivered. Other option is Volunteer Toolkit. So Volunteer Toolkit also has all of the petal packets on there, and we're going to go over Volunteer Toolkit in a little bit. So you wouldn't, this is one option to get a girl's guide to have to have the information for how to get your petals, but you can also find it on Volunteer Toolkit, which you can download for free as well. One more option too for getting your and the petals themselves, the little fabric petals, they're sold as one flower, and you can either pick those up in the shop or you can order them online as well. The other option is the Adult Learning Specialist, me, has I have a book loan program, so I can lend a daisy of daisy materials that includes 1 copy of the Girls Guide and the 3 original journeys, which we're about to go over. If you would like to borrow those paper materials, you can go to your nearest service center and ask for a daisy book loan. And what you do is you fill out a agreement and sign it, and then you can keep those books for as long as you're a daisy leader. I check in once a year to see where you're at with it. So that's another option too. Brittany, if I have not answered your question, then send the question in again in a different wording so I get what you mean. But I think I got it. Okay, so that's your petals. Then we're on to the other section here is called, they're called journeys. So first thing is, what is a journey? What's the deal? So a journey has a few characteristics, and I'll show you one of the original journeys. So this is the one of the original journeys for daisies. And as you can see, first off, that this is much longer, right? So this is not a petal packet. This is like a whole book. So it is a much longer commitment than a petal packet. So that's the first thing to know about a journey. The next thing to know about a journey is it always includes a take action project. So a journey is culminates in a take action project. So at the end of this, the activities in this book, the girls will be doing some kind of take action project, which is a developmentally appropriate project for the girls to make the world a better place that you lead them through. So all journeys end in a take action project. And then journeys also come in a theme. This is called Welcome to the Flower Garden, this daisy journey. And this is about growing flowers and growing a garden and how that relates to, and various activities around gardening relating, and that relates to leadership, right? So journeys are meant to teach leadership skills in an interesting way. And as in leadership skills, that's such a big thing, right? To try to teach a leadership skill. Journeys themselves are a much kind of longer and more involved process than a petal packet. Petals are more about individual skills. And when you get to brownies, badges are about individual skill building, journeys are about leadership skill building, learning how to be a leader. Okay, so for daisies, there's 3 journeys that we actually have printed books for. So this is Welcome to the Flower Garden. We also have Between Earth and Sky and 3 Cheers for Animals. With each of those, this is the book that the girls would get. And you can also purchase the adult guide. So this is the adult guide that goes with Welcome to the Flower Garden. And what's in this adult guide is some information about leading daisies in general and what the journey is about, the theme of the journey. And then there's going to be 7 to 10 lesson plans in here for how to present this to the girls, right? So it lays it out exactly how to present this to the girls, including how to lead them through a take action project. So it's like your teacher book that you can find for one of these printed journeys. So that's the combination there. And then as girls complete a journey, work their way through a journey, they earn, when you complete a journey, we call it an award, what you earn for a journey. So if you can see here on this diagram is the picture of the award that girls can earn for Welcome to the Flower Garden. And what it is it's very large, actually. It's a large patch with that nice background, and then there's three little pieces, the daisy, the flower, the watering can, and the bee that go on there. So as they work their way through the journey, they get those little pieces, and then the patch comes together in the end. So those are our three originals. So these are the materials. I like this diagram only because it includes all the materials. These are all the materials that we have printed materials for, that you can buy in the shop as a printed material. So now we're going to talk about Volunteer Toolkit. So now with Volunteer Toolkit, we have a lot more options and choices, right? So starting today, I had to scramble around to get this all this new information in here today. Starting today, we have more choices on Volunteer Toolkit. So the way Volunteer Toolkit is organized, and that again is that digital resource that you can go to and download DAISY curriculum. The way it's organized is as year plans. So you can pick a year plan, and then the year plan includes a certain number of badges or petals or etc. So here's what's available to you in year plans on Volunteer Toolkit for daisies. The first year plan choice is a year plan that includes all of the petals and the Promise Center, 2 financial literacy leaves, and a Take Action project. This is a little confusing. This is not a journey, even though it has a Take Action project associated with it. Just so you know, it's not officially a journey. The second choice for year plans is a badge year. So up to 2 years ago, we did not have any badges for daisies. We only had petals, but they've now added badges in very interesting subjects like engineering subjects and cybersecurity, space science, etc. So there's 2 badge years. Oh, I should take away the new. These ones aren't new. These 2 are new. They were new last year. So 2 badge year choices. And then they've just added, starting today, 2 new year plans with badges. So one, they're called Coding and Outdoors and Space Science and Adventure. So the Coding and Outdoors has badges that have to do with coding for good, they call it, for good meaning like for the good of the world. And then Space Science and Adventure has space science badges associated with it. So those are these 5 choices here include badges and petals. Then we move into the journey choices that are available on Volunteer Toolkit. So the first one is, I have it labeled 6 here, is Advocacy, Welcome to the Flower Garden. So yes, you can purchase this in print, right? This journey in print, but you can also get it on Volunteer Toolkit. So that's available. And then next, 3 Cheers for Animals is available. Between Earth and Sky, which is the environmental journey, is available. Then we move into the journeys that are only available on Volunteer Toolkit. So there might be bits and pieces of them that you could get printed out, but you're never going to have like there's no books like this Welcome to the Flower Garden for these journeys that I'm about to talk about. All of the information is on Volunteer Toolkit, and the Take Action project that's associated with them is only on Volunteer Toolkit. You can't find it anywhere else. So those choices are an outdoor journey that includes these 2 awards and a Take Action project, or 2 badges and a Take Action project. The STEM Outdoor Think Like a Citizen Scientist. So these are kind of funky because it looks like you're only getting 2 badges for that whole year plan, but this actually takes 6 meetings to complete this one badge. It's a progressive project. And then STEM Think Like an Engineer, same kind of deal. STEM Think Like a Programmer, same kind of deal there. And then your last option, if that weren't enough, now we have 13 options, year plan options for daisies, is to create your own year plan. And what you can do on Volunteer Toolkit is pick and choose from the DAISY curriculum to make your own year plan, rather than picking one of the pre-selected year plans that they have. Okay, so you have a question? Never mind. Okay, wait, let me just look at it quick. Okay, so Catherine, if you have, it sounds like you know what you know what you need to know. So if you have another question, please write it in. But I'm not going to answer that one. Okay. But actually, I love this question, so I actually am going to answer it. So Catherine asked, even though she said never mind, she asked, are these year plans just suggestions? Can we pick and choose from each of the options based on what the girls are interested in? Or is it suggested to follow the plans as shown? Great question. And yes, you can pick and choose and create your own year plan from what the girls are interested in. But we actually do suggest that you, if it's your first year of Daisies and um, you're looking for like a basis in Girl Scouts, a nice structure in Girl Scouts, to do petals your first year. And you can either do those via using the Girls Guide or Volunteer Toolkit. I suggest Volunteer Toolkit because it's free. So you can do them either way. And it's a really nice base. If you're looking for me to tell you what to do, if you're looking for me to say, well, oh my God, that's too many choices, tell me what to do, I'm going to tell you to do the petals your first year. If you're not looking for me to tell you what to do, say, I feel like I can get, I feel like I can find out what the girls are interested in, build my own, that's fine too. Okay. But if you're like too many choices, do the petals. Okay. And I just said what I was going to say here. Oops. Um, because 13 choices for 5-year-olds, that seems like a little much, right? So I would actually want someone to say, what should I do? And you should do the petals because they are a great start for girls and Girl Scouts. Girls really like them. They enjoy collecting the petals. The meetings are set up really well for this age level, so all of the they fit nicely into an hour-long meeting, the petals. And then also leaders have uh, found the packets, the activities very doable, and the girls like them. So if you want me to tell you what to do, do the petals. If you don't want me to tell you what to do, you do what you want. Okay, and we will move on. Oops. Okay, so again, emphasizing this difference between Volunteer Toolkit and the printed materials. So I just want to make sure people understand. So if you were going to go get a girl's guide or borrow a girl's guide from me, what you're going to find in the girl's guide, and that's this right here, are these petal packets, and they look like this, right? They're nice. They're very graphically pleasing. They have the nice illustrated story in them, and they have the steps that lay out what you're supposed to do, right? If you were to go to Volunteer Toolkit and get your instructions for how to do the Lupe petal, it looks like this picture on the right. It's called an activity plan. So it's pretty darn different looking than the petal packet. And sometimes that really throws leaders if they've seen the packets. They're like, wait, what is this, right? So this is, I've done a lot of comparing between what does the petal packet tell you what to do and what does the Volunteer Toolkit activity plan tell you what to do. And in general, they're very similar. The one thing I would say is that the activity plans on Volunteer Toolkit are much more structured than the petal packets. The petal packets are much more like suggestion, suggestion. The Volunteer Toolkit activity plans will often say, play this game rather than choose a cooperative game. They'll say, this is the game you will play, right? So with all, just so you know that difference and you're not thrown by it, with all Girl Scout materials, you're in charge. You know what's best for your girls. You know your space best, etc. You can make any changes you want, whether it be on the petal packets or in an activity plan. And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. So with that, this is a activity I pulled from the activity plan for the Lupe Petal. So that's the Volunteer Toolkit version of the Lupe Petal. It's one activity that's in the meeting plan for this Lupe Petal. So just take a moment and read through this activity to get a feeling for what they're asking you to do. And then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So as you're reading through this, kind of maybe you certainly must know a girl of Daisy age, because here you are. So picture girls of Daisy age participating in an activity like this. So we'll just take a moment to read that. I can shut up for a minute. In case you're like, what you doing? We're taking a moment to read through this island game activity. And I'm putting my Girls Guide back together. Okay, so hopefully everybody got the gist of this game. It's a lot like musical chairs with a twist. So now we're going to talk about leading any sort of Girl Scout activity using this as an example. So these are just a few steps to think about when you're leading a Girl Scout activity. And the first one is setup or preparation. So in thinking about this game, and I'm asking you, so type something into the question section, what do you need to do to make sure you're ready and set up for this activity? So I'm looking for people to type that into the question section. How do you need to set up and prepare for this activity? So Catherine says have all the materials. Yep, so that's one thing you need to make sure you have the materials. Anything else you would need to be prepared for this activity? And to have a big enough space for the girls to move. Great point, right? So this is a game where you're going to need space. Music, gather materials. Okay, so yeah, so big picture, getting your materials together and making sure you have enough space. And so this is a game where you might need to go outside, right? You might not have enough room in your meeting spot, or it's an active game, so maybe there's not appropriate. Maybe you're meeting at the library and it's not appropriate for girls to jump around to islands in the library, so you might need to take it outside. So that's just something to think about when you're going through these activities, is whether you're ready to do whether you could do this, right? The other thing is time of year. So this comes into a lot of the DAISY materials. Like something like Welcome to the Flower Garden, which is all about planting flowers. If you're going to pick to do that in the middle of winter, that's not going to work, right? So just thinking about is this right for the season? You know, can we go outside, or can we do whatever we need to do this activity? Brittany says, understand the purpose of the activity. Yes, but that kind of comes in later at the end, when we're kind of wrapping up, that they might understand the purpose of the activity. Okay, so basically, rule of thumb, the first time you're looking at this activity cannot be when you're presenting it to girls, because you will not be prepared, right? And that's very basic. Okay, so next thing to think about are any rules that you might need to set up for an activity. So this one has suggestions for which rules that you should have for this activity. But you know your girls, you know them best, you know your space best. You might need to say some other things, especially with purposely picked this activity because it looks like I could get a little controversial, like it's a competitive game. I mean, you can get out in this activity. So when I was reading through this, and just picture, my girl's now 11, but picturing her at this age, I think she would still cry. Um, Picturing her at this age, if she was the first one out, she'd be sobbing in the corner, right? So I wonder if I could modify this game in any way, change the rules in any way, or set it up a different way where it might not be so upsetting to some girls, right? So that's something you can think about when you're talking about the rules, and you're totally free to do that. Like when I was reading through this, the first thing I thought was, it said hand and foot on the newspaper or whatever you're using for the islands. I was like, oh, too much. We can't make them do hand and foot. Let's just do foot, right? Or something like that. That's fine. Whatever you think is going to work best for your group. Okay, so then moving on to monitoring the activity. So you get everything set up, you've established all the rules, you're ready to go, right? You can go have a cup of coffee. No, you have to stay and watch, or you have to actively be involved, right? And all the other adults who are supervising with you. So what are you looking for? And I'm asking you again to write something into the question section. What are you looking for when you're actively monitoring an activity? What are you watching for? So write something into the questions section. What are you actively watching for? Brittany says behavior, participation. Jamie says behavior. Yeah, so all those things that you talked about in rules, making sure that girls are following the rules and behaving well. Everyone participating, says Laura. Yep, so you're watching for that. And again, watching for, you may see a girl get quiet and go and walk away, that is something that, you need to address, right? Oh, Brittany says exemplification of the law and the promise. Yes, so that would be great to notice that if you're seeing that happen during the game, so that you can bring it up to the girls later. And Catherine says fun. Okay, so this is the positive part of actively monitoring. Usually when we talk about actively monitoring an activity, we're looking for those problems, right? But you're also looking to see if the girls like this activity, if it's fun, if they're getting something out of it, right? So, and you're going to say, hey, maybe not this one, but maybe this one. The girls are loving this, right? They're seeming to get a lot out of it. So you're going to bookmark in your mind, oh, this is a good activity for us. This kind of activity is a good activity for us. And you're totally free to develop more activities like it, to go longer. You don't have to end it just because you've finished the packet, that kind of thing. So that's sort of the positive part of noticing what your girls really like. And also, I guess the negative part of that is noticing what they don't like and what they are not ready for too. Okay, so then, so we've participated, we've monitored the activity, we move to the conclusion section of the activity. So after the activity's done, we don't just dust off our hands and let it go. We need to draw some connections. So all that stuff that Brittany's been talking about, of understanding why we did the activity, drawing out some thoughts about the activity, that's sort of the conclusion, also called debriefing. And for some activities, it can be pretty cut and dry and simple. It might not be much debriefing you need to do. Potentially for an activity like this, in order for the girls to see why you did this and how it connects to being, what's Lupe? Honest and fair? Honest and fair. Yes, sorry. Being honest and fair. You might need to draw the girls out on this one, right? So they give some samples of questions that you could ask. You might think of your own questions that you could ask. But just so that you're doing something at the end of an activity to make sure that the girls are drawing connections and understanding why you did it. And then one more thing I want to say about this is you might decide to go with an activity. You're reading through the activities and you think, I don't know. This is maybe, like this might be too much for the girls. I don't know. We'll try it. We'll try it and see what happens. So you can try an activity, and if it just goes south, you're end it. You can end it, right? But if you do end the activity, make sure that you go through that conclusion step so it's a learning experience for everybody. So everybody's like, whoa, what went wrong there? And how can we improve it? And what did we learn from that? And then Catherine says, discussing others can retell what they did, and then when they return home, make it memorable. So retelling and discussing. Yes. Okay. So that ends my portion on activities. I need someone to go and try this activity and report back to me what happened, because I can just see this going like, woo. Okay. Snack time. We've done so much work. It's time for snack. So I don't have a snack for you. And I just want to say a few things about snack. The first thing is you don't have to have a snack. A lot of Girl Scout troops choose to have a snack, but it's completely up to your troop whether you want to have a snack or not. And then the way that you provide snack is also up to you. If you want to have a rotating job on the caper chart, which is probably the most common way that people do snack. So it's this girl's family's turn, this girl's family's turn. If you want to purchase snack with troop funds, that's also something you can do. However you want to do snack, you can do snack. And then when do you have snack? So one thing I've learned, I used to be an elementary school teacher. If you promise a snack and you don't deliver until hours later, you're probably going to get some snack-based distractions. So you're going to have to figure out what works for your group. If they know snack time is coming and they can't concentrate on anything else, maybe you need to have snack first. One tip I have for DAISY leaders is all of the DAISY materials have stories. I think almost all of them have stories associated with them that you're going to read to the girls. So that can sometimes be a good time to have snacks. So you're going to read the story and they'll quietly eat their snack while you're reading the story to them. Okay, if you have any questions at all about snack, go ahead and send those along and we can try to answer those. But we're going to move right along, 6:48. We're going to move right along to uniforms. So this is the DAISY uniform. This is the tunic of the DAISY uniform. I will, again, in the handout section, there is the most recent uniform diagram for DAISYs. If you cannot access that for whatever reason, I will send that to you via email. So as DAISYs, you have the choice of a tunic or a vest. Is that right? Yes, tunic or a vest. Once the girls move on, once they get to brownies, the choices are vest or sash. So tunics are only available to DAISYs. So if you're dying for a tunic, act now. Good rule of thumb, all of the earned awards go on the front of the uniform, And the fun patch, so earned awards, by that I mean something you're completing some kind of Girl Scout curriculum to get that award. And all the fun patches go on the back. So what's a fun patch? Here's just an example of girls wearing fun patches. Fun patches are basically some kind of commemoration of something that you either did together as a troop or a girl did individually that isn't necessarily a piece of the Girl Scout curriculum. So for instance, if you decide in the fall to go to the pumpkin patch with the girls, you, the leader, can get pumpkin patch fun patches for the girls to put on their vests or tunics to commemorate that experience, right? And there are fun patches everywhere. You might go to a Badgerland activity and there'll be fun patches there for the girls to get. You can order fun patches from catalogs. You can pick up a variety of fun patches in our shops. So fun patches, you won't lack for fun patches. They'll be popping up all over the place, and those go on the back of the vest. The other thing is fun patches the girls don't all have to look the same, and they won't. Their uniforms won't all look the same, because if a girl is maybe on a trip with her family and she's at a national park and she's in the gift shop and she sees a patch that she really loves, she can go ahead and put that on her uniform on the back. All the girls don't have to look the same. Okay, so where do we find our uniform diagrams? Again, I'm going to send them to you, but you also can go to our website, gsbadgerland.org, our program, uniforms, and then click on this green link and it'll take you to all of the uniform diagrams that you can download. Okay, so what about, I'm going to go back for a minute. What about all this stuff, like these starting pieces here? How do I get those? So one option is getting what's called a starter kit from our shop. And I like this. This is a starter kit brochure. I like this brochure because it breaks down the uniform. So these are the core DAISY items. Those are the required pieces for a uniform. And that includes the insignia tab, the DAISY membership pin, the WAGS pin, the wavy flag patch, the council ID, and the troop numeral set. So that's the basics that you start with on the uniform. You can get them via this starter kit. So if you were to do that, the shop puts it together for you. Girl picks tunic or vest, and again, the girls don't have to be all have to be the same. It can be an individual choice for each girl in the troop what they want. With the starter kit, you do have to purchase a piece of the Girl Scout curriculum. So either a Girl's Guide or one of the journey books, one of the 3 printed journey books. This is the girls' book that I showed you. And with that, the nice thing about the starter kit is the shop puts it together for you, and you get a little string backpack for the girls to carry their materials in for free. So that's one of the benefits of the starter kit. So that's something you can do. You certainly don't have to do it that way. You could go and assemble that stuff yourself. You could order it online, however you want to do it. So who pays for these first uniforms? In general, the model is that parents pay for the first uniform in Girl Scouts. So your job would be to let parents know what the girls need, where it is, and how they can get it, right? So that's generally what happens with brand new troops. Once you're through a successful product sale, so you have opportunity to participate in the product sale, then the Girl Scout troops should be purchasing the uniforms for the girls. So once you're moving along in the program and you're through a successful product sale, if the girls need new uniforms, the troop will purchase those using their product sale funds. But for the first uniform, which is what you guys are on, for the first uniform, generally the model is the parents purchase that. There is financial aid available for families who need it. So the financial aid would cover first that $35 membership fee. Every girl who's in Girl Scouts has to join GSUSA, and that costs $35. So the financial aid package will cover the $35 membership fee, and generally the contents of a starter kit will be what the financial aid package is. So your job as the leader would be to just let parents know that financial aid is available. Then they can go to gsbadgerland.org and fill out the financial aid form. When they register, they'll also be prompted if they want to get financial aid or not. So they fill out the financial aid form, and then it's a conversation between council and the parents. So they'll let you know, I think council lets you know, the leader, if girls are awarded financial aid, but it's up to the parents to pick it up, etc. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for a second. Yep, and see if there are any questions on uniforms. Any questions on uniforms? My question thing has been very accurately telling me when there are questions. All right, if uniform questions come to you, then send them in. Okay, we'll keep moving here. Okay, so you may be thinking, I'm going to hand a 5 to 7-year-old this tiny scrap of fabric, which is one of those petals. What are the chances that that's going to go from her hand onto her uniform and in the right place? Probably pretty low, right? So this is a suggestion that a leader gave me once that I thought was nice because it shared responsibility, so I always pass it on. The co-leaders would safety pin the award patch, whatever it was, to the right spot on the uniform, and then it was up to the parents to get it affixed permanently. That's one way you could do this. There are all kinds of ways of doing this. I've provided a handout called Tips and Tricks from an Experienced Leader, and that has a whole section about this kind of question. How do we get them there? How do we get them in the right place? How do we get them to stick on permanently, right? So I recommend that you take a look at that handout when we're done with this presentation if you have questions about that. Okay, I'm just going to take a drink here. Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit about progression. We're still talking about all these activities that you're going to do as a Girl Scout troop. So progression is this is the outdoor progression chart, but the concept of progression is girls take on activities that are developmentally appropriate, gain skills so that they're ready to go on to the next activity, right? And that's true for you as leaders. And I have a question here. So Brittany asked, do we purchase the petals? Yes, the petals would be purchased. So if you plan to do the petals your first year, you can either wait. Let's see, what would be the best thing to do? Some troops decide to gather money from the parents and buy I think the petals are $6.50 for the whole flower, and then purchase the petals with that. Or you could purchase them and then wait till you go through a product sale and reimburse yourself as well. So if you want the troop to purchase them, or you could instruct the parents to purchase a petal flower when they purchase uniforms. So those are a few different ways that people have done it. But yes, they do need to be purchased. Okay. Okay, so back to progression. So this is the outdoor progression chart, and it's a good example for the idea of progression. So I want to ask you guys again. So say you're ready to do your first activity outside your normal meeting spot with your girls. You're going to go on like a 10-day backpacking trip in the Rockies, right? No, of course you're not going to. That would be horrible. You might not even come out alive, right? Because you're not ready for that. But what would be, for a brand new Daisy troop, what would be a good first activity outside your normal meeting time, right? So go ahead and type something into the questions section, what your thoughts are about what would be a good first activity. Okay, so Catherine says explore surroundings. Visit a nearby park or library. I love it. Our other Catherine says that. That's kind of exactly what I'm looking for us to start really. We're doing an ice cream social. Oh, with the families. Yeah, so that would be fun too. So, but what I'm looking for is something really simple, right? So you want to build your skills in this department, right? And it could be something as simple as going to the green space that's next to your meeting spot, right? There's a lot you can do, right? You can play a game, you can do some pedal work out there. There's all kinds of things you can do, but it's very simple and you're building your skills slowly, right? So you go to the park next door to your meeting spot, you do something for a pedal there, everybody returns healthy and safe. And then maybe you're like, okay, that went well. Now we're ready maybe to up the ante. Maybe we'll go to the zoo, right? So that is a whole other level of complexity. You need permission slips, you need parents to drive, et cetera. So just build your skills slowly so you don't find yourself doing something that you're not prepared for. Okay, ice cream social. I like that idea, especially today. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so other sources, once you are comfortable and you're ready to venture out, other sources of finding activities for your Girl Scouts. So how do you find them? Going to the activities section of our website is a great place to start. And that will have electronically we'll have what we call the Pathfinder in there. So probably the end of August, everybody will receive the new Pathfinder for this 2020 membership year. But what's in the Pathfinder is all the Badgerland sponsored activities that Badgerland is hosting, and there's lots of them for the whole year. So from September to June, and then the camp season starts, and that's a whole other thing. So that's what the Pathfinder has in it. So that's something to look through, and you can look through it before you actually get your uh, paper Pathfinder in your mailbox. You might be able to see it online. You will be able to see it online first. So if you check in this activities section and event program guides, and the new Pathfinder will come out, I would say probably early to mid-August. And you can take a look through there and see if there are activities that your troop is interested in signing up for. So that's a good place to start, is with the Pathfinder. And then beyond the Pathfinder, there's a section of our website called More Stuff to Do. And this is where you're going to find community program opportunity or community opportunities. So what's a community opportunity? We've referred to them in many different ways over time: Badgerland Friends, Program Partners. Those terms are still both out there as well. But what they are is a business organization, some business or organization that has a relationship with Badgerland Girl Scouts, where they offer something from a discount all the way up to a whole overnight activity where they're earning a badge, something like that, right? There's a huge range of these things. So Badgerland organizes some of them. And if you want to see what those are, you can click on this upcoming community program opportunities line here, and that will take you to the list of ones that Badgerland has organized and give you instructions about where you can sign up for those. I don't think it's been updated yet for the fall ones, but coming soon. So that's the ones that we organize, but then you can also initiate a community opportunity as well. If there is a organization or a business that you would like to visit with your Girl Scouts, you can give them a call and offer something, or you can look at this community opportunity directory, which is an online document that changes quite a bit, and that lists all of the organizations and businesses that have a relationship with Girl Scouts, who you should call, how much it costs, etc. So that's something to take a look at too for finding activities outside your normal meeting time. Okay. Come on, slideshow. There we go. Woo, okay, we have come to the end of our meeting functions with our closing. So we recommend that you close your Girl Scout meeting with another Girl Scout tradition called a friendship circle. And you can see it pictured here, and I will attempt to demonstrate. So it's right over left. You're holding the hands of the girls next to you. Everybody's facing in. And then the closing leader gets to start the squeeze of friendship. So if that were me, I would get to squeeze the hand of the girl next to me, and that squeeze passes all the way around the circle by squeezing hands until it reaches this hand, and then we turn out like this. So that's the basics of Friendship Circle. A few tips that have been passed on to me over time. First is to remind the girls is that it's a gentle squeeze of friendship and not like a bone-crushing squeeze. That can sometimes be a problem. And then sometimes the squeeze will get lost in the circle and people will get kind of panicky. So one leader said, oh, have them put a foot in when they feel the squeeze. So that's a great way to mark where the squeeze is on its rounds. And then other than that, you can customize Friendship Circle however your troop will develop traditions that they like. The most common customization I've heard is singing the Girl Scout classic Make New Friends while you're in Friendship Circle. It's a great thing to do. Other troops have told me that each girl says something that they learned at the meeting when they go around. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You can make it your own. So at first, you're going to lead the girls through this because it'll be new to them. And then eventually you'll be able to have a closing leader. And this is something I really recommend that you put on the caper chart because everybody wants to do it and you don't want to fight over it, right? So the closing leader is the person who gets to start the squeeze of friendship. And then they could also be the person who decides what you're going to do in Friendship Circle that day. Are you going to sing something, or how else are you going to customize it? So if you have any questions on that Friendship Circle, you can send those in. And I'm just going to pause to see if I have any questions here. Looks like we're good, so we'll keep moving. Okay. Okay, so back to Volunteer Toolkit. Is that what I want to do? Yes, that's what I want to do. How do you get there? So they just updated Volunteer Toolkit, so you're ready to get there for and year plan. You can do year planning for fall now if you'd like to. So how do you get there? You go to gsbadgerland.org, and generally if you have any question or about Badgerland or how should I do this, the website is probably the first place to go. So gsbadgerland.org, bookmark that. You'll click on that sign in section I've circled here, and it's going to ask you for your username and your password. Your username is always your email that you have associated with your Girl Scout account, so whatever email you receive Girl Scout emails at, the full email. And then the password, you may have set that up at some point, you may not have, but you can always do forgot password for that. And then once you're successfully signed in, you're going to have a choice between Volunteer Toolkit and Member Profile. So Volunteer Toolkit is what we've been talking about, and that's that resource where you can find curriculum and year planning tools. Member Profile is a whole separate thing, and that's where you go to renew your membership, to print off rosters, things like that. So those are two separate things. So you're going to select Volunteer Toolkit. If you have any trouble accessing Volunteer Toolkit, please give us a call. This is Hillary. She's our customer care. She leads our customer care department. Very helpful. You can call or email. It's usually some very small administrative thing that's wrong, why you can't access Volunteer Toolkit, some box we need to check. And we'd really like you to use it because it's a great resource. So go ahead and feel free to call us if you're having any trouble accessing it. Okay, so I have provided you with a Volunteer Toolkit take-home activity in the handout section, and again, I'll send those to you via email as well. That is just to walk you through how you set up Volunteer Toolkit. This is what I want you to do for your homework, and you can go ahead and feel free to do it now because Volunteer Toolkit's ready to go again. So you log on, and you're going to want to go to the Explore tab. The Explore tab is where you have those year plan choices. So the pre-selected tracks are all of those year plan choices, those 12 pre-selected year plan choices that I went through, like badge years, journey years, etc. Those are all there that you can pick from. Or you can choose the select your own, that's the 13th choice, which is picking and choosing from the Girl Scout curriculum to assemble a year plan of your own. So go ahead and click on one of those, click on those, and if you can, meet with your leader or other troop volunteers to select a year plan. Don't worry. Some people are worried, oh, I don't want to pick a year plan. What if it's not right? What if the girls are interested in something else? It's okay. You can change year plans. You don't have to stick with the same year plan once you pick it, but you can't do anything in Volunteer Toolkit. You can't move things around or access the meeting plans, which tell you how to run the meetings, until you pick a year plan. You have to pick a year plan first before you can tool around in Volunteer Toolkit, right? So don't worry so much about which year plan you pick. Just make your best guess, and then you can always change things. You can add and subtract meetings or change the whole year plan too if you need to. So go ahead and explore Volunteer Toolkits, pick the year plan, and then explore the tabs. You've got the My Troop tab, which is a nice, very convenient resource that lists all the girls and adult volunteers in your troop and their contact information. The Explore Year tab is where you go to pick a year plan. The Year Plan tab, once you've picked that year plan, will show you the meetings that are in your year plan in chronological order. If you click on one of those meetings, it'll take you to the Meeting Plan tab, which is the individual meeting plan where you'll find that activity plan, which is the directions for running the meeting. There's also a resources section, which is some general resources to help you in your journey as a Girl Scout leader. One particular resources that might be useful in the resources section is they have badge completion charts and things like that you can print out, so that might be a useful resource. And then the Finances tab. Badgerland is not yet using the Finances tab, so it's just going to say check back later. So I'm not sure when we're going to start using it, but right now we're not. Okay, so go ahead and do your homework and explore Volunteer Toolkit. You can go ahead and get ready planning your year for starting in the fall. And I'm going to stop again and see if there are any questions about Volunteer Toolkit before we move on to product sales. We're in the home stretch now. Okay, product sales. So as daisies, you can participate in all Girl Scouts can participate in 2 council-sponsored product sales per year. The first one is called In a Nutshell, and it's the fall product sale. It's a much smaller sale than the cookie sale. It's a friends and family sale. Girls sell magazines, keepsakes, nuts, candies. think that's right. Yep. Training will be provided. So the fall training dates should be published in the Pathfinder once it comes out. And you're going to need a volunteer who is your fall product sale coordinator. So that's a role in your troop, and that's the person who will receive all of the information and get the training for the fall product sale. It can be you, it can be a co-leader, or ideally it would be another adult volunteer who steps up to take on that role. Then we have the cookie sale, which seems very far away right now. So we'll just talk a little bit about it. So the cookie sale takes place in February and March. So why do we participate in the cookie sale? First, to learn the 5 important skills that the cookie sale teaches us. It's a great experience for girls. And then also to pay for our Girl Scout expenses. And I would rank those Girl Scout expenses as the first priority is membership. So every year girls have to pay that $35 membership fee. And the troop should plan to pay for that out of the proceeds of their product sale, right? So that's number 1 expense. Number 2, I would say would be uniforms. And number 3, I would say would be curriculum as your sort of top 3 expenses, right? Things pan out differently on the ground. Troops make different agreements for how they want to do this, right? But basic rule of thumb, you don't want to find yourself, at Build-A-Bear buying the girls all Girl Scout bears when you haven't covered those basic expenses with your product sale money. So extensive training is provided for the cookie sale. That will come up in December. And you'll need at least 1 volunteer to be the troop cookie coordinator, again, a designated role in your troop. And we really encourage that person to not be you, to not be a co-leader. We found that co-leaders burn out when they take on the troop cookie coordinator duties as well. So you are scouting right now for that parent volunteer who can be your troop cookie coordinator, and you can break it up between a few parent volunteers too. Maybe you have someone who's willing to keep the books and someone who's willing to haul cookies around. You can have 2 troop cookie coordinators. But I really encourage you, you're going to be really involved. Don't worry, you're going to be super involved with the cookie sale. It's not like you're not going to be involved. But it works better for troops if there is another volunteer taking on that troop cookie coordinator role. All right, and I will stop for a second and see if there are any questions about product sales. Okay, so this training was meant to help you feel comfortable, confident, prepared to run your DAISY meetings. I hope we went some distance in doing that. Thank you for stepping up to be a Girl Scout leader. The girls will always remember you. I'll always remember my Girl Scout leaders. And if you have any questions at all, you can contact customer care, and that's the number, or email. We get back to you very quickly. But let me see, what time is it? It is 7:11. I will stay on the line right now. If anyone wants to raise their hand and speak, or has questions that they want to type into the question bar, I will be here for about 5 minutes to answer questions. If you feel like you've gotten everything you need, remember the next step was I will send everyone an email with those handouts attached to it. I will enter your names in as having completed your leader training, and then you will get an email from GoToWebinar 24 hours from now, which has a little evaluation for you to fill out on there. But with that, if you feel like you've gotten everything you need, you can go ahead and sign off. If not, I'm here to answer questions. You can either raise the hand or type into the questions section. Thank you very much for coming. You're my last class of this kind of training. It's all going to change. Again, I'm here if you want to type in any questions or raise your hand. If not, you can go ahead and log off. Okay. Looks like everybody has logged off. I am going to end the webinar. Thanks for coming.